If someone had told me years ago that my wife, Lisa, would cheat on me with a man half my age, I would have laughed in their face. We had been together for 15 years. I trusted her. I believed in the vows we made. But life has a way of showing you just how blind love can make a man. Lisa was 41, still beautiful, still full of life. I was 50, and sure, I wasn't the man I used to be, but I never imagined that would become a reason for betrayal. I thought we were happy. I thought we had something real. That was until my best friend Mark told me something that changed my life forever. Mark and I had been friends since college. He was the kind of guy who never sugarcoated anything. So when he sat me down one evening at a bar and told me, "Tom, I need to tell you something about Lisa," I knew whatever came next wasn't going to be good. "What about Lisa?" I asked, taking a sip of my beer, feeling a slight knot form in my stomach. Mark sighed, rubbing his hand over his face like he was struggling to find the right words. Then he finally said it. "She's cheating on you." I nearly choked on my drink. "What the hell are you talking about?" "I've seen her, Tom," Mark said, "with that gym trainer of hers, some kid who can't be older than 25. I didn't want to believe it at first, but I've seen them together too many times. They're not just trainer and client." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "That's ridiculous. Lisa wouldn't do that to me. She loves me." Mark looked at me, his eyes filled with something I didn't want to acknowledge. Pity. "I knew you wouldn't believe me, but I had to tell you." I left the bar angry. How could my best friend say something so awful about my wife? But no matter how hard I tried to ignore his words, I couldn't shake the doubt that crept into my mind. That night I lay awake next to Lisa, listening to her breathe peacefully while my mind raced with suspicions. I told myself Mark had to be wrong. Lisa was always at the gym. She loved fitness. She had been going 5 days a week for the past year. But was that all she was doing there? The next morning I decided to find out for myself. I started small. I checked her phone when she was in the shower. She had a passcode. She never used to have one. That was my first red flag. Then I started paying closer attention. The extra effort she put into her appearance before going to the gym. The way she always came home glowing, sometimes even showered before she got back. The way she smiled at her phone, lost in her own little world. And then I did what any suspicious husband would do. I followed her. It wasn't hard. She had no idea I was watching. I parked across from the gym and waited. 2 hours later, I saw her walk out. She wasn't alone. A young guy, tall, muscular, cocky-looking, walked beside her. They laughed, too close, too familiar. Then right there in broad daylight, she kissed him. My heart dropped. Mark was right. That night, I sat at the dining table staring at Lisa as she talked about her day like nothing had changed. She smiled, her eyes bright with excitement as she told me about her trip to the salon, about a new restaurant that had just opened up in town, and about how her workout at the gym had been especially great that day. I barely heard her words. My mind was stuck on the image of her and Brandon outside the gym. The way she had laughed with him, the way she had touched his arm, the way she had kissed him. That kiss was burned into my memory like a brand, searing and inescapable. I felt sick. My stomach churned as she kept talking, oblivious to the storm inside me. How could she sit there and lie to my face? How could she act like everything was normal after betraying me like that? When she finally noticed my silence, she frowned, tilting her head. "Tom, what's wrong?" I exhaled slowly, leaning back in my chair, folding my arms across my chest. My voice was calm, but every word felt like ice on my tongue. "You tell me, Lisa." Her expression didn't change immediately. She simply blinked at me as if trying to read my face. Then after a brief pause, she gave a small, confused laugh. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice light. But there was something else there now, an edge of nervousness she was trying to hide. I scoffed, shaking my head. "You don't?" I let the silence stretch between us before adding, "Then let me help you. How about we talk about your gym trainer? What's his name?" "Oh, that's right. Brandon." The color drained from Lisa's face. Her smile vanished in an instant. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. She blinked rapidly, her throat working as if she wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. I had seen that look before, but never on my wife. It was the look of someone who had been caught, someone who knew there was no way out. "I know, Lisa," I said, my voice cold, controlled. "I followed you." For a few seconds, she just stared at me, as if trying to process what I had just said. Then finally she exhaled, rubbing her temples. She closed her eyes for a brief moment before looking at me again. And to my shock, she didn't deny it. "Tom, I'm sorry." That was it. Just that. A weak, pathetic apology that held no weight. I clenched my jaw, my hands curling into fists on the table. "Sorry?" I repeated, my voice laced with anger. "That's all you have to say?" Lisa's eyes filled with tears, but I saw no true remorse. There was no shame, no guilt, only regret for getting caught. "I never stopped loving you, Tom," she said softly, her voice trembling. "But I needed more. More." That single word felt like a slap to the face. "More," I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. My heart pounded in my chest, but it wasn't out of sadness anymore. It was rage. She nodded hesitantly, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. "I needed to feel young again," she admitted. "I needed someone who could satisfy me." I stared at her in disbelief. The woman I had loved, the woman I had built a life with, was sitting in front of me, telling me to my face that I wasn't enough, that she had thrown away our marriage for a thrill. "So you decided to destroy everything we built? For some kid?" Lisa shook her head quickly. "It's not like that," she said desperately. "You don't understand, Tom. Every woman over 40 needs someone younger if her husband can't satisfy her." I slammed my fist against the table, the sound echoing through the room. Lisa flinched, her body jerking back in her chair. "You don't get to justify this to me," I snapped, my voice shaking with fury. She bit her lip, her hands trembling now. But then, instead of staying quiet, instead of showing even a shred of real regret, she said something that made my blood run cold. "I think we can make this work, Tom." I blinked. For a moment I thought I had misheard her. "Make this work?" I repeated slowly. "What the hell are you talking about?" She swallowed hard, and for the first time, I saw determination in her eyes. It wasn't guilt anymore. It wasn't shame. It was something else entirely, something twisted. "What if we didn't let this ruin us?" she said carefully, watching my reaction. "What if I kept seeing Brandon, but you and I stayed together?" My jaw tightened. "You're joking," I said, my voice eerily calm. She shook her head. "No, Tom, I love you. I don't want to leave you, but I also don't want to stop seeing Brandon. I think we can be mature about this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wife, my own wife, was trying to convince me to stay married to her while she openly slept with another man. Then she said the thing that pushed me over the edge. "I could invite him over for dinner," she continued, her voice almost hopeful. "We could all talk about it like adults." And that was it. That was the moment my love for her died. I felt nothing but disgust as I looked at the woman sitting across from me. The woman I had shared my life with. The woman I had trusted. She wasn't the person I thought she was. She was a stranger. And from that moment on, I knew exactly what I had to do. I spent the next few days pretending to be okay with Lisa's disgusting suggestion. I told her I needed time to process things, to understand her needs, and think about how we could make this work. She believed me. She actually believed I was considering letting her keep her young lover while staying married to me. The idea alone made me sick, but I played my part well. I acted calm, though inside I was boiling with rage. At night, I lay awake beside her, feeling nothing but resentment. Every time she touched me, I had to fight the urge to recoil. The woman I had loved for over 2 decades had become a stranger to me. No, worse than a stranger. She was a traitor. But I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to make her pay. While Lisa thought I was mulling things over, I got to work. The first thing I did was hire a private investigator. I wanted every detail about Brandon, the young, cocky trainer who had helped destroy my marriage. It didn't take long to get results. As it turned out, Brandon was exactly what I suspected, an opportunist who had a habit of sleeping with older, married women. Lisa wasn't even his only sugar mama. He had another, a rich divorcee in her 50s who spoiled him with expensive gifts, vacations, and cash. I had to laugh at that. Lisa, in her delusion, thought she was special. She thought she was the only one. How pathetic. With the information in hand, I set my plan in motion. First, I made sure the wealthy divorcee found out about Lisa. A few well-placed messages, a couple of photos, and a little push in the right direction were all it took. She didn't take it well. In fact, she threw a fit. Brandon was cut off immediately. No more lavish vacations, no more expensive gifts, no more easy money. But I wasn't done with him yet. Next, I made an anonymous call to the gym. I pretended to be a concerned husband, one of many, warning the management that their beloved trainer had been sleeping with multiple clients, many of whom were married women. It didn't take long for them to act. Brandon was fired within 48 hours. Just like that, he lost everything. But Lisa still had to pay. I wanted her to feel the same humiliation I had felt, the same betrayal, the same loss. So I set the final part of my plan in motion. I invited her family over for dinner one evening. Her parents, her younger sister, a few close friends, people who respected her, people she would never want to disappoint. Lisa was thrilled. She thought I was finally coming around. She even kissed me that night, whispering, "Thank you for trying to understand." I smiled back at her. She had no idea what was coming. The night of the dinner, Lisa was in high spirits. She cooked a beautiful meal, set the table perfectly, and greeted her family with warm hugs and laughter. Everyone was in a good mood. Then it was my turn. As everyone sat down, I stood up and cleared my throat. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight," I said, forcing a smile. "I have something very important to share with you all. Something Lisa has been keeping from you." Lisa turned to me, her smile faltering. "Tom?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Then with the press of a button, a video played on the screen. Gasps filled the room. It was Lisa, outside the gym, kissing Brandon, holding him, whispering into his ear like some love-struck teenager. The room fell into a stunned silence. Lisa turned white. Her hands trembled as she covered her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes. "Tom, please." "Don't," I cut her off. My voice was cold. "You made your choices. Now live with them." Her parents looked horrified. Her sister shook her head in disbelief. One of her friends muttered, "Oh my God, Lisa." She tried to explain, tried to justify it, but no one was listening. I wasn't done. With the same calmness, I reached into my pocket again and pulled out a stack of papers. I placed them in front of her. "Divorce papers," I said. "Sign them." Lisa's eyes widened. "Tom, no. We can work through this." I let out a small laugh. "Oh, like how you suggested we make this work with Brandon?" She flinched. "Lisa, this marriage is over," I said, my voice steady. "You threw it away the moment you decided to cheat. You threw it away the moment you asked me to accept your affair." She started crying, but I didn't care anymore. I walked out that night with my dignity intact. Lisa, on the other hand, lost everything. Her family was ashamed of her. Her lover was exposed and jobless. And me, I was finally free. The divorce was quick. She didn't fight it. She knew she had no leg to stand on. Brandon? He vanished. No job, no sugar mama, nothing. And me? I moved on. But one thing was certain. Love had fooled me once, but it wouldn't fool me again. Lisa taught me a lesson I would never forget, and for that I was grateful.